looking at exponential evaluations. We've been working with them throughout the semester. Some folks are still having a little trouble with them. So here's some repetitive practice. And we can talk about, them in more detail in class, but let's just get some practice. So there are three operations involved in this exponential evaluation. The minus sign means to reciprocate the base. The two we're pretty familiar with, I hope. The number of times you're going to multiply the base times itself. In this case, it's twice, and we call that squaring. And the three really is a cancellation of powers. So it's roots. So this is a cube root. This 3 means take the cube root of the base. So what times what is 8? Well, that's a 2. So if we're going to perform this calculation, turns out that order does not matter. The order in which we do this calculation does not matter. I could do 8 squared, which is the one that you're most familiar with, 64, and the cube root of 64 happens to be 4. So you kind of have to know that if you did it in that order, but you wouldn't have to know that if you took the cube root of 8 first. And so that's what I would do. I would look at this and say, well, I know the cube root of 8. That makes the calculation easier because that's a smaller number. But there are still two. If I perform that operation, there are still 2 operations left. And I can either reciprocate the 2 and call it a half times a half, which is a 4th, or I can see it as 2 squared, which is 4 to the negative 1. And then the minus sign means to take the base and reciprocate it. And that's 1/4. And you need practice with that. Repetitive practice. So let's do 4 or 5 in a row here. Continue to do them in class on every test so that hopefully, like your times tables, this just becomes an easy calculation. Now you pause the video on each of these and try it yourself. And what I'll just do is do all 5 of them. And then you just see how you're coming along. And if you feel like you're confident with this, well, don't be looking at this video. Look at something else that you're working on. All right, so order doesn't matter. So let's call it the commutative property of exponentiation. I don't think we'll see that in a textbook, but who cares? Let's call it that anyway. The commutative property of exponentiation. What's the easiest thing that you can do here? And I hope you look at the 2 and you say, I'm going to take the square root of 9. Because I know the square root of 9 is 3. I still have to do what? I still have to do the minus 3 part, which is here now. And 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. So I'm going to do 3 cubed and get 27. It's still to a minus sign. And I'll put a 1 here because I think I probably should. And that means take the reciprocal at 27. And there's your answer. Okay, remember you're pausing the video on these and trying them. And hopefully you're going to get one of these from me on the next test. All right, so what am I going to do with this one? Well, I think I'm going to do that first. I'm going to reciprocate it, so I'm not working with a fraction. That means I'm looking at the number 64, and I've got 3 squared. Well, the square root of 64 is 8. So 8 cubed. And I did that in the video before I had to get rid of the video on this material because I made a mistake on one of the later problems that was egregious. So I had to make this video again. 8 cubed happens to be 512. And I think I'm going to remember that from now on. All right, so the next one, again, a fraction. I'm going to reciprocate. I'm going to write it as 27 to the 4/3. Now I have a choice. I can take the cube root of 27 times 27 times 27 times 27. I can do that. Or I can take the cube root of 27 and then to the 4th power. I think I'm going this route. Cube root of 27 is 3. 3 to the 4 happens to be 81. I guess I'll write it there. All right, you can do that out to prove that to yourself. Here's the one I made a mistake. God, I got talking and anyway. So what am I going to do here? I think I'm going to do the 5th root of 32. Okay, because 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 is 32. So the 5th root, I can't draw the geometric picture of that. I don't know how to draw a 5th dimensional picture. But the 5th root of 32 is 2. So I'm going to do that operation right there, and I'm going to say 2 to the negative 2. And I hope we're at the stage where we can simply call that a 4th. I'm squaring the 2 and placing that squared in the denominator. All right, one more practice, and maybe we'll do a little better with these. Oh, back to the fraction, back to reciprocating, there's 81 to the 3/4. We just found out that 3 to the 4 is 81 back here, so I'm gonna do the 4th root of 81. I'm gonna find that value and then I'm gonna cube it. And the 4th root of 81 is 3. And if I cube it, I get 27. All right, there's some quick practice. I hope maybe it moved the needle for someone. And that you're a little better at that, because we're gonna build off of that with the inverse, and the inverse is my giving you the answer to an exponential and you finding it. And that's what logs are. All right, so let's close this one down and post it.